Hi there. My name is Molly Brogan. I'm with the National Small Business Association. I want to thank you for joining us for today's Every Street. These are conversations that NSBA is having with small business owners just like yourself, small business leaders across the country. And today we have a great conversation ready for you. I'm going to start off by introducing our president and CEO, Todd McCracken. He's been with NSBA for more than 35 years. He's got some great expertise, and he'll be leading our conversation today. Todd, take it away.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you all for joining us. I hope this will be a really great episode. We've got some great small business leaders to talk to you, and I think some pretty good topics will be interesting. First off, we're really lucky to have Bill Belknap, who is the small business leader, who is the chair of NSBA for 2026. Bill is the CEO and president of eEnergy, which is the project management, consulting, and general contracting firm that does primarily federal work, and facility management and consulting work. It's just been a super successful company. But Bill also has a long background in the military, where he retired as an Army major, and a lot of expertise in government contracting, both from his current work in the company, but also because of 10 years in contracting at the Pentagon. Bill is also really active in the veteran business community as well. So we're really happy to have him here today. Also, Sanjyot is here. Sanjyot is the small business leader and founder of CEO, of Atma Global, which is an international education firm that delivers customized e-learning and instructor-led solutions for institutions all around the world. We're really lucky that Sanjyot has been an active member of the board of trustees of NSBA for a number of years now, most recently being vice chair of membership for us. But it's also really exciting that she is now a candidate for Congress, running in Illinois' 8th district. So it'll be really interesting to hear Sanjyot's perspective on both the business environment, but also what it's like to translate that into public policy and elections here. So thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
And so let's just get going. We're starting off a new year here. It's 2026. I'll just ask both of you, what do you think are some of the major themes that will either be continuing from 2025, or do you think are going to arise in the small business community over the coming year? Sanjyot, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Happy to. And, it's been a pleasure, and Happy New Year to all of you. And Todd, thank you so much for leading NSBA, and Bill for leading it in the year ahead. I've really enjoyed being on the board, and it's such a critical organization, even more so at this particular time. I can tell you what we see as a business, but I'm also happy to tell you what I'm hearing in my district. So I think the number one thing as we lean into 2026 is people are really tired of the uncertainty and the chaos. As a small business owner, doesn't matter what your political persuasion is. And that's one of the beauties of NSBA. It's truly nonpartisan. It's pro small business. It's really about how can we strengthen and make sure small businesses flourish. The number one thing I hear is, how do we dial down the rhetoric? How do we focus on policies that small businesses can actually plan, whether you're trying to hire, whether you're trying to invest? So I hear a lot about less chaos, less uncertainty, and absolutely better alignment on tariffs to really make sure that we're not penalizing small businesses. Those are my three big issues I hear.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bill, what do you see coming up this year?
Sure. NSBA has had a long history of achievements and helping small businesses sustain and grow in our economy. A couple of recent enormously beneficial policies that were put into practice was the PPP program during COVID that helped small businesses carry them through, and the government shut us down. The second thing that most recently also is the tax cuts. It's interesting dynamic in the sense that the tax reductions that were set in 2017 were set to expire for small businesses, but not large businesses, December 31st, 2025. And NSBA was a proponent that helped to extend those in perpetuity so that we remain competitive with large businesses. So that's an awesome achievement. Now, looking forward, it's an exciting time. I know there's we certainly saw some turmoil, some challenges, and some unpredictability. And we believe that we'll see more predictability coming into 2026 for small businesses. We also see continuing some of the key things that we started to be proponents for, which is a Corporate Transparency Act. So that's one item we want to continue. Right now it's on hold, thanks to an executive order. However, it's not in perpetuity yet. We want to see that also not become law and affect negatively our small business in the United States. The other things we want to do is enhance our communications with its members. So you're going to see a lot more of NSBA on social media. I just want to say, if you want to be relevant, you have to adapt to the current realities. We are in the social media age now, so we want to be absolutely on top of that, and we already are, but we're going to get even better in the future, and I'm extremely excited about that. And also, we'll have some new opportunities to have members engaged, and of course, probably the biggest thing that we want to set ourselves up for success during and certainly afterwards is the midterm elections later this year.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, what do you all see happening in the small business economy in 2026? We've had so much, sort of a level of uncertainty in the general public about the economy, worries because they're worried about the tariffs, inflation hasn't been fully tamed. At the same time, as you pointed out, Bill, there's been those tax cuts last year that should help a lot of small companies with retaining some of their capital and have the resources to grow. But we're also seeing in the last jobs report a bit of an uptick in the unemployment rate. So there's a lot of mixed messages happening in the economy right now. What do you, from your own perspectives and your own businesses and people you talk to, where do you think we're moving? Do you think it's going to be a period of growth?
Sanjay, you want to go first?
I'm always happy to share my 2 cents here. That's a loaded question, Todd, right? Like there's so many different areas. Yeah. Let's talk about Bill did a really great job of sort of running down what our accomplishments have been. Mm-hmm. And I know how hard fought they've been to make sure that NSBA is representing all of the small businesses at the table in DC. It can seem like not a lot gets done, but in fact, we were successful in accomplishing those things, whether it's the tax cuts, whether it's leveling the playing field, the CTA. I think that what we're looking at is more of that. So I just mentioned a little bit about less chaos and uncertainty. I think most small businesses of any size, want predictability. You can't bring on somebody, you can't invest. But I think a lot of the businesses that we're also talking about are starting to see, how does AI impact me? What are some of these new technologies? And one of the things I talk about, and I'm so pleased that NSBA has a task force on AI and new technologies, and I'm delighted to be on that subcommittee. And that's always an opportunity for new members to sort of participate in all these different areas that impact small businesses. It's not that we have an answer, right? We don't know where AI is going to take us, and it has a tremendous opportunity, but also it can be an agent of some real challenges. And so what we want are guardrails, but more importantly, as small business owners, we want to make sure we're at the table so that when these boundaries and these guardrails are being discussed, NSBA is out there and all small businesses feel that there's somebody who's advocating for them. I think that's really important, because what we've seen as somebody who has an ed tech business is there are a lot of rules, regulations, and policies that benefit the largest tech companies, and it is not a level playing field. So I think that we should be seeing more of that. And I expect, and Todd, I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on that a little bit, because I know how close you are to policymakers on the Hill, but really making sure we're at the table for that. And then I think people would like to see some stability in tariffs so that there's some predictability for sales and revenues and their P&L. Those are the big things that I see as on the docket for 2026.
Great, thank you.
Bill? Yeah, I would absolutely. Stability is a key for all of us to be able to predict our customers, our revenue, our hires, and our strategic direction. I'm a federal government contractor. I do construction with DOD and mostly the Veterans Affairs. And so for us and other entities that do government contracting, Stability is important, certainly. And I don't see us going back to the early days of the first administration with Doge. I don't see that as happening this year. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more predictability. But I also want to emphasize that, Department of Defense and Veteran Affairs, their budgets are expanding, and DOD, pretty substantial amount. So there are opportunities, enormous opportunities still in the federal government for federal government contracting. So the key thing, one of the key things that I would absolutely recommend to small businesses, if you're in that space, is pivot. So if you're doing something that's getting a reduced a budget, or you're doing something where the government does not need that product or service anymore, perhaps like coaching. Not that that's a bad thing, but that may not be, you may not see the opportunities for that so much, where other things, we're in critical infrastructure. Mm-hmm. There's always a need to repair critical infrastructure. So we have not been personally affected by either Doge or the changes in budgeting for the administration. So we're pretty much steady state. But I would recommend small business owners pivot, number one. And number two, advice is, I went through a strategic review of our company here, coming up with a strategic business plan for the future growth. And our coach talked to us about one of the critical things is many small business owners, especially if you're on entrepreneurial track, have numerous products or services. Right. And you don't just want to grab every opportunity out there. You want to try to apply as much as you can the 80-20 rule. What are the 20% of your products or services that are giving you the best bang for the buck, that are giving you its greatest revenue, the greatest, most importantly, the greatest profit? Double down, refocus on them for your best business success.
Yeah, that's good advice. Let's turn our attention to, it's 2026, beginning of the year, and we're an advocacy group, so we got to turn our attention to what the policymakers are doing, and they're running for re-election, at least in the House of Representatives, or election for the first time, in your case, Sanjyot. And we could see some big changes in 2026 in the elections, but in the meantime, there's probably going to be more heat than light as we enter an election year. One thing I think is really interesting about representing small business is virtually every candidate, no matter where they are on the partisan divide, where they are on the ideological divide, wants to be a champion of small business. They may have their own ways of doing it, different views on how to promote small business, but small business is very popular in the land. So I guess I'll turn this to you, Sanjyot. Why do you think that is? How do you use that as a small business owner yourself running for Congress? How does that translate to your candidacy, to talking to constituents, and how can we get more traction once we actually get people in office?
Absolutely. So I think that this is a really great opportunity for people to be involved in elected office, whatever you choose. It just so happened I had the opportunity with an open primary seat for a congressional seat in my hometown. Those kinds of things don't always open up, so you take advantage of the opportunity.
You grab it when you can.
Exactly. I couldn't have written it any better.
Yep.
But I think that small business owners, and I think that we bring in a different perspective, right? We're a little bit closer to the communities. We understand what people are going through. We're sort of one of the fabric, and we're part of the community in a different way than some of the larger corporations in terms of how you engage with customers, stakeholders, employees. So I think that small business owners have a very unique perspective. They know their communities well. They tend to be able to represent them. And they're also trusted allies of so many stakeholders. So I think that we need to see more small business owners at every level of government, and certainly in Congress. Let me leave you with an interesting fun fact. And maybe it not be fun, but a fun fact of in Congress today, 40% of Congress are lawyers. I have a lot of great friends who are lawyers, so this is nothing against lawyers, but there's a difference in mindset of a small business owner who brings in perhaps an innovation mindset. By the way, we were delighted at my company to be honored by Fast Company as one of the most innovative in the small and mighty category. So I wear that badge with honor. But an innovation mindset is different than what you see in Congress right now. What's the difference? Most people in Congress right now either know how to say yes, no, or sort of narrow the boundaries, whereas small business owners have an innovation mindset. The answer isn't can we? The answer is, how can we? We're really about solutions. We're really about addressing complex problems head on, and we need more small businesses to bring that mindset into Congress, federal office, local office, whether you're running for anything up and down ballot. So I encourage people to really think about how they can take their skills from the private sector, the mindset that they've developed, their experience, and translate that into public service. And I think that we will be a lot better off with that. So obviously that's why I'm running.
That's great. I really think, NSBA, as you both pointed out, is a bipartisan or a nonpartisan organization. That doesn't mean we don't have a lot of partisans in the organization.
Right.
We have people from all different perspectives who are leaders in the organization, and we find a way to come together and work on behalf of the small business community. And we don't always agree, but we agree on our mission. And that's what ultimately matters. So I really feel like, Bill, we have some lessons we could teach Washington if we could figure out how to do it. Don't you think?
We do. And I have to tell you, those of us were fortunate to be at the Washington presentation last year, going to the congressional breakfast. I don't know how many congressmen and women that, Todd, you had there, at least 15 maybe, but it was just amazing. Their interest, their passion for small businesses, wanting to help them, and then also the opportunity to exchange ideas with them. Hey, what's on your mind? What's your toughest challenge? So that's one way to certainly provide impact and update Congress of what we need to succeed. The other thing is that don't ever estimate the power of a constituent calling or emailing their congressman or woman with what's on your mind and impact. They rely on you to vote for them, and they certainly rely on their constituents' opinions, and they want their constituents to succeed. And let me just put in a quick plug for NSBA. NSBA has on its website an opportunity to you to easily vote on issues that are important to small businesses. So take a look at our website, which we'll provide to you, and take a look at advocating on behalf of NSBA. Just take you a minute or two. It'll be well worth it beyond your imagination, really.
Thanks, Bill. Well, looking to the future, one of the things we're doing this year is we're rolling out a whole new small business platform for America. It's not out yet, so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but we're going to try to describe the pillars that small business in the country operate, or why small business is so important to our nation's success, what the small business community needs from the nation to succeed, what NSBA can do to help bring small businesses together and help them grow. And then finally, what candidates for office, members of Congress, other policymakers can do to pave the way for small companies. And one of the things we're going to ask is we're going to create a small business pledge for candidates. We're going to ask them to sign a pledge where they actually pledge to support small businesses and to support pro-small business policies and help them grow and succeed. And we hope that we'll have really high rate of take-up for members of Congress and candidates who are running this year. Sanjyot, what do you think? Do you think that's an important thing for them to consider signing on to?
Absolutely. I think that people really need to understand exactly what small businesses need, and the pledge is a way for us to engage with folks on the Hill and to be able to say, even if you don't have experience as a small business owner, let us help you understand what day-to-day life is like, what our issues are from quarter to quarter and from year to year. I'm often surprised by some of the sort of stereotypes of small businesses, if you will. Small businesses range from a sole proprietor to mid-sized manufacturing that could be in the mid 8 figures in revenue. It's a wide range, and I think I have been surprised and pleasantly surprised in getting to know and see so many of them in our NSBA membership. So I really think that being able to have this pledge to say, here are the issues that cover the wide range, here are the current issues, and here's how you, elected official, can help make sure that we strengthen small businesses and really make sure that they are poised to thrive, not just barely survive, right? Small businesses really want to really stabilize and grow and be the backbone engine, economic engine of their communities.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Well, we're kind of getting close to our little time here now. People have been very patient listening to us. Maybe it's time to turn to see if we have any questions from folks who are watching us. So I'll turn to the staff and see if there's some questions that we need to get answered here. I know there have been some folks putting stuff in the comments. Molly?
Yeah, one of the questions I've seen in here, can you talk to us a little bit about the CTA? And I know, Todd, that we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we'll send some information out to everybody, but can you touch on that?
Sure. We did another video recently that will be going out to everybody that's talking about the more recent developments on the Corporate Transparency Act. It's a really important rule that to make a long story short, we've fought it for years. It finally passed. We think it's a very unreasonable regulation on just the small business community and reporting to beneficial owners. It's confusing. The penalties are extraordinary if you fail to comply. It just doesn't make sense. And so we filed suit. We won. Now then we lost an appeal. Now we're probably going to appeal that decision. But in the meantime, Congress has an opportunity to step in and correct their wrong and either repeal the rule or codify the current regulation that's temporary right now that's limiting its enforcement. So we hope they'll do that. But if people want to know more information, there's all kinds of information about the Corporate Transparency Act. We've really been the leader in the small business community on getting it changed, repealed, rolled back. So all kinds of information on our website about where that stands, the history of it, and exactly what the implications of it would be if it became reinstalled in the future.
Todd, if I may just add to that quickly. So we did a survey for how much to small business owners, how much would time and effort, mostly financial, but also time resources is incredibly important as well. But our estimate was that it was somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 per small business to go through legal, to do all the paperwork, the bureaucracy. So our goal, and as Todd, I think he was a little bit too light. NSBA is the proponent, and NSBA is the leader that took the Department of Treasury to court to halt this additional bureaucratic endeavor that we thought that the federal government already had the information it needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just a really good example of where being at the table to make sure it's a level playing field. Bill, you're right. All of this information is readily available, for example, from a bank or a financial institution, but forcing small businesses to be the ones to provide it is both costly, and there were some penalties that could have included civil penalties and being a crime. So if we don't have a voice at the table, small business owners, this is what happens. And educating lawmakers for every single day and every single step of the process. There could be another rule that's been arbitrarily being discussed. And unless we have a strong voice, which is what NSBA is, we need to get ahead and proactively prevent these kinds of rules and regulations rather than having to fight them afterwards. So I'm really honored and delighted to see what NSBA has done, but everybody's listening. Please get involved, because this is how we make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Great. Thank you all for that. There was a comment talking about AI and, is there any concern about us losing the AI race against China? And what is the role of guardrails? The comment was that, China's not really worried about guardrails. They're just trying to get AI in the hands of people. So, Sanjyot, I know you were talking a little bit about that. Could you expand on that comment just a little bit?
Yeah, so it comes in different layers, right? There's AI in a very practical, like the ChatGPT, the regular LLMs that all of us are sort of fiddling with to see, can we make our business processes better? But there's also the flooding of LLMs and other kinds of agent AIs by China, who are doing it cheaper. They're also doing something, not to get too wonky on it, they're actually taking away the weight. So one of the things about AI that really concern me, and should concern everybody, is that unless we have guardrails and unless we understand how AI works, they're constantly researching and learning off of each of us, our small business, our data, our individual information. And we want to make sure that we have safe boundaries and safe processes for learning. So a lot of the US-based AI firms actually put weight. So once they've tested and done some research before they release their AI to the market, they're now starting to put weights on there so that even if somebody feeds bad information, the AI can't necessarily learn that bad information and push it back out. The Chinese ones are not doing that, right? So we need some safeguards to make sure that we don't have bad AI in our marketplace. So that's one thing. The other is we want to make sure that the US, whether it's through small businesses, whether it's through our universities, whether it's through DoD. I know Bill talked a lot about what he's seeing on defense spending. We want to make sure we're investing in science and technology and innovation. That starts from making sure our curriculums are better so that we have the best and brightest minds, making sure that we attract the best and brightest scientists and computer programmers from around the world, but then also making sure that we level the playing field. So the race with China is not over, but we definitely need to make sure that we keep one eye on it and that we force them to actually play by our rules rather than ceding leadership to them. So I'm very focused on helping to make sure the US maintains its technology leadership, and we should never take it for granted. I hope that answered the question a little bit.
Thanks for that, Sanjyot. I appreciate that. We do have another question, and Bill, you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today. Is there anything in the works to make it easier for people to start with the federal contracting process, or if you're already in, to make it a little bit easier? Any thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, there's enormous resources out there you have to tap into. I think a little bit trite, but the number one thing, if you just have to ask for help, and I would say there's a lot of free help in there, but it's not free because as taxpayers, you're already paying for it. So let me give you some examples. Small Business Administration at the regional level, they have counselors that are free of charge. In fact, they exist to help small businesses grow and prosper. You can also take a free government contracting course. There's a beginner level and an advanced level at the Small Business Administration. I did it before I started my company. There's a SCORE, of course, that's a volunteer group of retired executives, and they did well, and they want to give back. And they're an enormity of resources there to tap into. Myself, I initially had a counselor. Then they said, "What do you need, Bill?" I said, "Well, I need somebody from construction, federal government contracting, and somebody can do my finances." So I had a free board of advisors to help me on my business journey for a number of years through SCORE. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. I can rattle off numerous others: Small Business Development Center, SBDC, et cetera. But you just have to do a little bit of research. You also have the trade organization. So as a veteran, we have the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, and they have the mentorships available for veterans to start and grow business in the federal market space.
Yeah, and I just add to that, Bill, that we also have a lot of resources on the NSBA website as well that you can find, and that will direct you to some of those other resources that he already also described. From a policy perspective, I would also add that the administration right now is in the midst of rewriting the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, that sort of governs virtually all federal procurements. And that's going to be a long process. They're rewriting it section by section, and there are lots of sections. So they are asking for comment on it. We've already been commenting on the draft regulations as they come out. But there is some level of optimism that there could be, at the end of the day, some clearing out of some of the weeds that make the federal contracting process so difficult for small companies. But we shall see when it's done and how all these pieces fit together.
You know, Todd, it's great that NSBA has small businesses back, because a lot of us are working our butts off to grow our company, to satisfy our customers, and have NSBA go and comment on the changing FAR is critical to more success for our small businesses. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, and we want to make sure the FAR is aligned for small businesses. Like that, we don't want to have that same issue like with the CTA. And as the vice chair of membership, I would be remiss if I didn't make a tiny plug here to say that that's one of the values of being on the Leadership Council or being a member, is being able to ask fellow NSBA members, hey, does anybody have experience in contracting, just like Bill said, right? Does anybody have experience getting on the GSA schedule? Can you give me some insights, or if you're trying to evaluate a vendor, for example, we were on the GSA and we used a consultant, and I remember asking a few folks that I knew at NSBA how they did it and what their advice was. So there is a lot of value in membership. You've heard the advocacy, you've heard the website resources, and now I'll tell you it's the colleagues you'll have a chance to meet. So that's the end of my membership plug. A little shameless there.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and we're kind of up against our timeline here. So what I'd like to do is turn it back over to Todd for any final thoughts, and I'm going to post a link here following up on Sanjyot's comments about getting involved. We've got lots of ways for you to do that, so I'll put that in the chat right now. And back to you, Todd.
Thanks, Molly. And I just want to thank Sanjyot and Bill so much for joining us today and for all the leadership they provide to NSBA over many years and will in the future. So we really appreciate all of your time and leadership on the small business issues of the day. And I want to thank everybody else who joined us today. I want you to, if you're not already engaged in NSBA, please consider joining and joining us in our fight. And if you are, thank you. And thank you for staying with us and being a small business advocate yourself. Stay tuned in 2026. I mentioned a few things that are coming up in terms of our small business platform, and there's various elements that we're going to be unveiling in the coming weeks. So there'll be lots of opportunities for people to engage in that as well. So thank you all for joining us, and hope everyone is off to a great start to 2026.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.